Welcome to World Alert Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. In a historic and closely watched decision, the Supreme Court today struck down the tariffs imposed by the Trump administration in 2018, sending shockwaves through the political and economic landscape. The ruling, which many legal experts had anticipated for months, is being hailed as a turning point in the ongoing debate over the limits of executive power in trade policy. This landmark ruling effectively brings to a close a decade-long era marked by contentious and often unpredictable trade policy, characterized by escalating tariffs, retaliatory measures, and uncertainty for businesses and consumers alike. The decision is expected to have far-reaching consequences for how the United States engages with its trading partners. In their majority opinion, the justices emphasized the importance of maintaining the constitutional balance of power, reaffirming Congress's exclusive authority to regulate foreign commerce. The court underscored that while the president has significant influence, the ultimate power to set tariffs and shape trade agreements rests with the legislative branch. The decision signals a significant shift back to a congressionally led approach to trade policy, potentially restoring a system of checks and balances that many felt had eroded in recent years. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are now expected to play a more active role in shaping the nation's economic relationships. Financial markets reacted swiftly to the news. Stocks in import-dependent industries, such as manufacturing, retail, and technology, soared as investors anticipated lower costs and improved supply chain stability. Analysts predict that this could mark the beginning of a new period of economic growth and opportunity for American businesses. International leaders, many of whom had expressed frustration with the previous tariff regime, welcomed the ruling. There is renewed optimism about repairing strained diplomatic and economic relationships, with several countries already signaling their willingness to return to the negotiating table. At home, reactions are mixed. Some Americans, particularly those in industries hurt by tariffs, are celebrating the decision and looking forward to increased exports and job growth. Others, especially workers in sectors that had benefited from tariff protections, worry about renewed foreign competition and the potential impact on their livelihoods. Beyond its immediate economic effects, this ruling marks a significant re-evaluation of presidential power in trade matters. Legal scholars say it could set a precedent for future cases involving executive authority, reshaping the balance of power for years to come. As journalists and analysts pore over the details of the decision, it's clear that the story of this ruling is just beginning to unfold. Lawmakers, business leaders, and citizens alike are now grappling with what this new era will mean for the country's future. The decision represents a potential return to negotiation and treaties, emphasizing collaboration and compromise over unilateral executive action. Many hope this will lead to more stable and predictable trade relationships worldwide. The implications for American industries and global trade are vast. Companies are already reassessing their strategies, supply chains, and international partnerships in light of the new legal landscape. With this ruling, the era of tariffs as a primary tool of economic warfare has come to a decisive end. The nation now stands at the threshold of a new chapter in its economic history, one defined by renewed engagement, legislative oversight, and the promise of a more stable global marketplace. The Supreme Court's decision is a strong statement on the separation of powers. The court ruled that the president overstepped authority with the tariffs. The decision reasserts Congress's role in shaping economic policy. Future administrations must work with Congress to enact major trade policies. This ruling restores predictability to international trade. Businesses can now plan with greater certainty. The decision emphasizes the rule of law over executive discretion. It marks a return to a more stable legal framework for trade. The court's ruling is a significant check on presidential power. It ensures that major trade shifts require congressional debate and legislation. The decision is a reassertion of constitutional governance. To truly understand the significance of today's Supreme Court ruling, we need to journey back to the pivotal year of 2018. A year that marked a turning point in U.S. trade policy and international relations. In 2018, the Trump administration, invoking national security concerns, imposed sweeping tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. The stated goal was to protect American industries deemed vital to the nation's security and economic strength. These tariffs were not limited to traditional adversaries. They also affected long-standing allies, including Canada, the European Union, and Mexico, igniting a wave of global trade tensions and uncertainty. The administration's move was met with immediate controversy. Critics from both sides of the aisle labeled it as protectionism, warning that such measures could backfire and isolate the U.S. from its trading partners. The tariffs quickly escalated into a full-blown trade war with China, leading to retaliatory tariffs, market volatility, and disruptions in global supply chains. Investors and businesses worldwide braced for economic fallout. Many critics argued that the national security justification was merely a pretext for advancing economic interests, rather than addressing genuine security threats. This sparked heated debates in Congress and among legal scholars. Economists warned that tariffs would ultimately act as a hidden tax on American consumers and businesses, driving up prices on everyday goods and squeezing small manufacturers already struggling to compete. Yet, supporters of the tariffs argued they were essential for reviving American manufacturing, saving jobs, and ensuring the country's industrial base remained strong in an increasingly competitive world. For years, these tariffs dominated economic debates, shaping public opinion and influencing political campaigns. The question of how best to protect American interests became a central issue. Now, with today's Supreme Court decision, this contentious chapter in U.S. trade policy comes to a close, signaling a major shift in how such powers are interpreted and applied. The ruling directly challenges the broad use of national security as a justification for imposing trade barriers, setting a new legal precedent for future administrations. With this decision, the responsibility for shaping trade policy now shifts back to Congress, emphasizing the need for legislative oversight and a more transparent process. This landmark ruling stands as a pivotal moment in U.S. trade history, redefining the balance of power between the executive and legislative branches. It also highlights the importance of finding a balanced approach to global trade, one that protects national interests while fostering cooperation and stability among nations. As the era of unilateral tariffs draws to a close, the world watches to see how America will navigate the next chapter in its economic story. The tariff debate has been divisive. Supporters saw tariffs as a shield for domestic industries. They argued tariffs leveled the playing field for American producers. Critics viewed tariffs as a self-inflicted economic wound. They warned of higher consumer prices and job losses. The tariffs disrupted global supply chains and strained alliances. Critics argued tariffs isolated the U.S. from allies. The ruling ends this divisive policy. It restores a more cooperative trade approach. The decision marks a shift from protectionism to collaboration. The ruling is a step toward rebuilding global trade relationships. The debate over tariffs has reached a turning point. The Supreme Court's decision reaffirms Congress's control over trade. The court found the president's use of Section 232 was too broad. The ruling emphasizes the non-delegation doctrine. Congress must define clear standards for trade actions. The decision recalibrates the balance of power. It forces lawmakers to take ownership of trade policy. The ruling curtails the president's ability to impose tariffs unilaterally. Trade policy will now require congressional debate and legislation. The decision is a reassertion of constitutional design. It ensures trade actions are accountable and transparent. The ruling is a reminder of the checks and balances in government. The Supreme Court's decision lifts a burden from American businesses. Industries relying on imports will see costs fall, benefiting consumers. The ruling provides predictability for long-term investments. Domestic steel and aluminum industries face renewed competition. The decision creates mixed impacts for workers across sectors. Globally, the ruling stabilizes supply chains. It reduces the incentive to move production away from China. The decision marks a shift in global trade patterns. The ruling is a pivotal moment for American and global economies. It underscores the need for balanced trade policies. The decision is a step toward a more stable trade environment. The ruling's impact will be felt worldwide. The ruling is a diplomatic signal to the world. It offers a chance to mend strained alliances. Retaliatory tariffs from allies will be lifted. The decision reopens critical markets for American exporters. It allows the U.S. to rebuild cooperative trade relationships. The ruling paves the way for renewed U.S. leadership in global trade. The U.S. can now lead efforts to reform international trade institutions. Rebuilding trust with allies will be challenging. The ruling is a first step toward a diplomatic reset. The decision creates an opportunity for new trade agreements. It emphasizes multilateralism and the rule of law. The ruling is a turning point in U.S. trade policy. It marks a shift from unilateral actions to collaboration. The decision is a step toward a more predictable trade environment. The recent ruling brings clarity to the legal status of tariffs, settling a long-standing debate over their legitimacy. However, while the court's decision provides a resolution on this specific legal matter, it leaves the broader and more complex US-China tensions unresolved. The underlying issues that have fueled years of economic friction between the two nations remain as pressing as ever, signaling that this chapter in global trade is far from finished. Core issues with China's economic practices, such as intellectual property concerns, state subsidies, and market access barriers, continue to challenge American policymakers. These persistent problems have not been addressed by the ruling, and they remain at the heart of ongoing disputes between the world's two largest economies. With the court's decision, the spotlight now shifts to Congress, which must take the lead in shaping the future of U.S. trade policy. Lawmakers are tasked with crafting new strategies that reflect the evolving global landscape and address the shortcomings of past approaches. A new approach will require not only targeted legislation, but also close collaboration with America's allies. Working together with partners in Europe, Asia, and beyond will be essential to create a unified response to China's economic strategies and to strengthen the global trading system. The ruling marks a significant shift away from the era of unilateral tariffs. Instead, it signals a move toward more strategic economic statecraft, where the U.S. leverages its alliances and economic influence to achieve its goals. To effectively address China's trade practices, the U.S. must work hand-in-hand with international partners. Building coalitions and fostering diplomatic ties will be crucial in confronting shared challenges and ensuring fair competition. This decision stands as a pivotal moment in the ongoing story of U.S.-China relations. It represents a turning point that could redefine how the two nations interact on the world stage, both economically and politically. The ruling also highlights the growing importance of presenting a united front with allies. In an increasingly interconnected world, collective action is more effective than going it alone. As the U.S. adapts to this new reality, the ruling is just one step toward a more complex and competitive relationship with China. The path forward will require careful navigation and innovative thinking. Ultimately, the decision marks a fundamental shift in U.S. trade strategy, moving away from isolation and toward engagement with the broader international community. It underscores the critical importance of collaboration and dialogue in global trade, reminding us that no nation can succeed in isolation. The ruling is more than just a legal milestone, it is a turning point in U.S. economic policy, setting the stage for a new era of international engagement and competition. By establishing new rules for U.S. trade relations, the decision opens the door to innovative policies and partnerships that will shape the future of global commerce for years to come. The ruling redefines national security in trade. It limits the president's use of national security as a trade justification. The decision sets a precedent for future administrations. It requires a clear link between security risks and trade actions. The ruling has implications beyond trade, affecting technology and investment policies. It signals judicial scrutiny of broad executive claims. The decision forces a national conversation on security threats. It emphasizes the need for a transparent and democratic process. The ruling is a reassertion of constitutional governance. It ensures trade actions are accountable and justified. The decision is a step toward a more balanced approach to national security. The ruling is a pivotal moment in U.S. trade policy. It marks a shift from unilateral actions to collaborative governance.